Caitlin Clark hasn't said much about the tension swirling around her, but that silence has spoken volumes. While headlines swirl and emotions flare, Clark has kept her focus sharp on her team, her performance, and her poise. This calculated calm has only deepened public respect for her. In contrast, Aya Wilson's candid expressions of feeling silenced and sidelined have cast her not as a leader navigating change, but as someone resisting it. With every on-court scowl and post-game comment,
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Wilson risks turning admiration into alienation, even as her talent remains undeniable. This growing divide between Wilson and Clark isn't just about two athletes. It's about how stars handle spotlight shifts in a league transforming before our eyes. Clark's rise is marked by adaptability and calm under pressure. Wilson's journey, now defined as much by her reactions as her resume, raises a pressing question. Can she shift from defending her past status to embracing the league's evolving future? The answer could shape not only her legacy, but the tone of the WNBA's next chapter. Aya Wilson, fired from the Las Vegas Aces after a locker room incident was leaked. A dramatic fall from grace, unfolding at the exact moment the league she helped elevate is changing right in front of her. And at the center of that shift, Caitlin Clark, rookie phenom, media magnet, the face of the WNBA's future, and whether she wanted to or not, the catalyst for one of the most uncomfortable transitions in modern sports. This isn't just drama between two stars. It's a generational collision. One player, Clark, is ushering in the WNBA's next chapter, while another, Wilson, is fighting to hold on to her place in a league that's moving faster than anyone expected. The tension didn't come out of nowhere. Fans have been watching it build for months. What started as subtle shifts, awkward glances, skipped acknowledgments in interviews, turned into full-blown narratives across social media. Wilson's frustration became part of the conversation, and the more Clark rose, the more Wilson seemed to tense up. The moment that set everything off was simple but telling. A Heat game, a fan holding up a Caitlin Clark jersey, and Wilson's face said it all. A sharp glance, a tightened jaw, no words, but every fan watching knew exactly what she was feeling. That single look snowballed. It was clipped, slowed down, and dissected to the point where it didn't matter what she meant. The damage was done. It became symbolic. Aya Wilson, uncomfortable with the new face of the league. From there, the energy shifted. Wilson's comments and interviews started framing her as someone who felt misunderstood. She spoke of being silenced. She talked about speaking her truth, about how hard it is to stay quiet when you know you've given everything to the game. And maybe that's valid, but also came off as defensive. Not empowering, resentful. That defensiveness started bleeding into her play. During games, she looked frustrated. She argued more with refs. Her body language on the bench? Cold, distant. Meanwhile, Clark was thriving. On the court, she kept producing. Off the court, she kept it classy. She never took shots. She never fed the tension. She just stayed focused, stayed calm, and let her performance speak louder than any headline. And that contrast, that was the real turning point. Because while Wilson was reacting, Clark was rising. While Wilson was struggling with visibility, Clark was selling out arenas. While Wilson was demanding to be heard, Clark didn't have to say anything. The league and the media were doing it for her. This is the power of perception. Wilson's talent was never in question. But in today's WNBA, it's not just about how well you play. It's about how you carry the weight of attention, how you show up under pressure, how you lead when things aren't going your way. And in those moments, Clark looked poised. Wilson looked rattled. Then came the locker room. Reports started leaking after a string of tense games. Sources claimed Wilson had a blow-up behind closed doors. It wasn't just frustration, it was personal, directed, heated. Allegedly, she called out teammates for not supporting her publicly. She felt abandoned, unappreciated. And when leadership starts accusing the locker room of betrayal, the chemistry is gone. There's no coming back from that kind of fracture without accountability, without reflection. But that's not what happened. Instead, Wilson vanished from the lineup, benched under vague internal reasons. And then, whispers turned into headlines. The Aces had cut ties. Quietly, but definitively. It was shocking, and yet not really. The writing had been on the wall. The league is in growth mode. New fans are showing up. New money is coming in. The WNBA can't afford to have one of its biggest stars become the face of resentment. And Wilson, through her actions, made herself look like someone unwilling to grow with the league. Meanwhile, Clark was doing everything right, facing unbelievable pressure, and somehow never cracking. She's been elbowed, targeted, dissected, and still shows up every night, focused and unbothered. The kind of professionalism at her age isn't just rare, it's marketable. It's why sponsors are lining up. It's why ratings are exploding. It's why fans trust her to be the face of what's next. Wilson, by contrast, looked like she was stuck in what used to be a league where dominance earned you the spotlight and longevity protected you from scrutiny. That's not the world anymore. Today, perception is currency. And Wilson's stock dropped the minute she let her emotions become the headline. This should have been a celebration of competition. Two elite players at the peak of their powers, pushing each other to new heights. But instead, it became a case study in how not to handle change. Clark didn't try to steal anything. She just arrived, and the spotlight followed her. That's not a threat to Wilson. It's growth for the league. The tragedy is Wilson could have been part of it. She still could be, but she has to want it. Growth requires humility. It takes resilience. It means accepting that the league doesn't owe you the spotlight forever, that you have to earn it again every year. Especially when there's a new face of the league generating numbers, breaking records, and staying above the fray. Wilson's choice now is simple. She can keep fighting the current, or she can turn around, swim with it, and become a new kind of leader, one who builds bridges, not barriers. She doesn't need to be the loudest. She doesn't need to be the center of every story. She just needs to evolve. And if she doesn't, the league will keep moving forward, with or without her. Because Clark is just the beginning. More young stars are coming. The league is expanding. The audience is growing. And there's no room for energy that drags it down. The WNBA doesn't need bitter rivalries. It needs legacy players who know how to uplift the next generation while continuing to compete at the highest level. Wilson was that player. Now, she has to prove she still can be. The question isn't whether she has the talent. It's whether she has the emotional control, the leadership, the willingness to adapt. Because this isn't about one incident. It's about what it revealed. If Wilson wants to be part of the league's next chapter, she needs to write a new narrative for herself. One that starts with self-awareness, not self-defense. That leans into the moment instead of resisting it. That shows fans she's still here to lead, not just on the scoreboard, but in the locker room, on the mic, and in the bigger picture. And she has to start now. Because if there's one thing the WNBA has made clear, it's that no one, no matter how decorated, is untouchable. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was Wilson's frustration justified? Or did she mishandle the spotlight shift? Do you think the Aces made the right move? Or should they have stood by their star? And where does Caitlin Clark go from here? Can she maintain this level of grace under pressure? Or will the target on her back get heavier? Tap the like button if you've been following this rivalry. Share this with someone who needs the full breakdown, and hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Because if this season has proven anything, it's that the WNBA is no longer business as usual. And the drama? It's just getting started. At this point, you can't scroll through sports media or regular social media without seeing the names Aya Wilson and Caitlin Clark right next to each other. Not in game stats, not in friendly banter, but in headline after headline soaked in tension. What should have been a generational rivalry rooted in respect has spiraled into one of the messiest storylines the WNBA has seen in years. And now, with reports of Aya Wilson being fired by the Las Vegas Aces after a locker room blow-up, we're no longer just talking about a rivalry. We're talking about fallout. And it's not just about what happened. It's about how we got here. Let's not forget, Aya Wilson is one of the best to ever do it in the WNBA. We're talking back-to-back championships, MVP honors, Olympic medals. Her resume speaks for itself. But the problem now is that her reactions are speaking louder than her game. And in a league undergoing a transformation, that kind of energy doesn't play like it used to. This all started when Caitlin Clark burst onto the WNBA scene like a rocket. She didn't ease into the league, she detonated into it. Record-breaking college career, top draft pick, national media attention, sold-out arenas before she even touched the floor in a professional jersey. Clark didn't just bring buzz, she brought a whole new audience. The kind of momentum leagues pray for. And instead of embracing it, Aya Wilson flinched. What started as tension quickly turned into a visible pattern. Fans noticed that Wilson couldn't, or wouldn't, mention Clark's name during interviews. She looked uncomfortable when asked about her. She rolled her eyes when media focused on the rookie. Then came that Miami Heat game, where a fan held up a Caitlin Clark jersey and the camera caught Wilson's sharp, split-second glare. That moment changed everything. It went viral in hours. What could have been just an awkward glance became the visual metaphor for Wilson's discomfort. Twitter ran with it. Commentators dissected her body language. Instagram pages posted side-by-side comparisons of Wilson's tense expressions and Clark's carefree, post-game smiles. And the symbolism was clear. Clark was rising, and Wilson wasn't handling it well. The reality is, Clark didn't take anything away from Wilson. She didn't insult her, challenge her, or drag her name. In fact, Clark barely acknowledged the tension at all. That's part of what made this whole dynamic so lopsided. Clark stayed professional. Wilson? She started looking like the one losing control. It didn't help that Wilson started speaking out, not with empowerment, but with frustration. She talked about being silenced, about not getting credit, about having to defend herself. And while those feelings might be real, the way they came out only fed the narrative that Wilson wasn't just upset, she was threatened. And then came the leak. It was only a matter of time before something boiled over. And it did, right in the ACES locker room. According to reports, Wilson had a full-on confrontation with teammates after another game where the Clark conversation overshadowed her performance. She allegedly accused players of not defending her, of letting the media walk all over her. What started as venting turned into blame. The energy turned toxic. And once that kind of fracture hits a team dynamic, it doesn't quietly go away. The fallout was swift. Wilson didn't play the next game. Internal reasons was the only official statement, but the silence said everything. Suddenly, rumors were swirling. Was she suspended? Benched? Released? And then came the big one. Reports saying she was done in Vegas. Think about that. Fired. From the very team she helped build. The team she led to championships. The franchise she was the face of. Gone. Not because of declining performance, but because of behavior, leadership, or the lack thereof. This isn't just a WNBA storyline. It's a cautionary tale. Because if Aya Wilson can fall this hard, anyone can. What it proves is that talent doesn't protect you from the consequences of bad energy. Especially not now. The league is changing. It's faster, younger, and under more public scrutiny than ever. The fans aren't just watching for game stats. They're reading body language, quoting interviews, making side-by-side clips. Every little moment is part of the narrative. And Wilson, whether she meant to or not, wrote herself into the role of the bitter veteran. And you know who benefited from all of it? Clark. Because every time Wilson spiraled, Clark stayed calm. Every time Wilson reacted, Clark shrugged it off. It wasn't that Clark played better. It was that she played smarter when it came to public image. And in this era, that matters just as much. Clark's diplomacy with the media, her focus on team goals, her ability to stay silent when it would have been easier to clap back. It's what made her likable. What made her relatable. What made her the face of a league desperate for a fresh, unifying figure. And now she has it. Because Wilson gave it to her. The irony is painful. Wilson had every chance to ride this wave with Clark. To be the season star embracing the new talent. To show leadership by setting the tone, not by setting fires. But instead of lifting the league alongside Clark, she positioned herself as the opposition. And the league doesn't have space for that kind of resistance right now. They're trying to grow, to build bridges, to get casual fans to become diehards. And you don't do that with internal conflict. You do it with players who represent unity, strength, and maturity. Right now, Clark checks those boxes. Wilson doesn't. And this rivalry? It could have been magic. It should have been the kind of competition that sparks greatness in both players. But instead, it became one-sided. Clark didn't even have to engage. Wilson handled the implosion herself. There's still time for Wilson to fix this. She's not out of the league. Yet. But the next chapter of her career depends entirely on how she responds now. Not with another press tour. Not with more defensiveness. With humility. She has to recognize what fans saw. What her teammates likely felt. That she let emotion cloud leadership. That she took things personally that didn't have to be. That she turned potential into pettiness. If she can own that, really own it, there's still a legacy to preserve. But if she doubles down, if she insists on staying in victim mode, blaming others, and refusing to embrace the new direction of the league, she'll write herself out of the story completely. And the WNBA will keep moving forward without her. Because the league is only getting bigger. New stars are coming every year. The spotlight will always shift. The players who survive the shift are the ones who evolve. The ones who don't, they fade out quickly. So, what's it going to be for Aya Wilson? Can she walk this back, reset her approach, and become the mentor competitor she was always meant to be? Or is this where her influence ends, not because of her game, but because she couldn't adapt? This is what happens when the story off the court becomes louder than the one on it. Aya Wilson didn't just lose her footing in the league. She lost control of the narrative. And once the narrative slips through your fingers, it doesn't matter how many points you score or how many trophies are on your shelf. In the age of real-time judgment, perception is reality. Right now, Wilson is being perceived as the player who couldn't handle change. The veteran star who didn't pass the torch, didn't guide the next era. She gripped it tighter until it burned her hand. And Caitlin Clark? Whether you're a diehard fan or just sports curious, you've seen how she handled the pressure. She walked into a league that wasn't exactly ready for the storm she brought. She's been hacked, targeted, criticized, micromanaged by fans and media alike, and she still hasn't cracked. She gets fouled hard, shrugs it off. She gets hate online and doesn't feed it. She's the one eating elbows and carrying expectations. And yet, she hasn't turned a single post-game interview into a pity party. That's not just professionalism. That's strategy. Meanwhile, Wilson has been doing the opposite. Whether she meant to or not, she started broadcasting frustration instead of strength. She went from leader to lightning rod. And the more she tried to speak her truth, the more the league seemed to distance itself. Let's talk about that locker room incident for a second. The details are still hush-hush. But what we do know is that it wasn't just heat-of-the-moment competitiveness. This wasn't a fired-up halftime pep talk gone sideways. No, according to those close to the team, Wilson went in, called out teammates, accused them of not backing her up, of letting the narrative run wild while she took the hits. And honestly, that's the part that stings the most. Because leadership isn't about being protected. It's about protecting others. When the spotlight's too hot, you don't look for someone to shield you from it. You set the tone. You rise above. That's what fans expect. That's what the league needs. But Wilson's energy turned inward. It became about her voice, her feelings, her struggle. And the ACES, a team built on chemistry and cohesion, didn't know what to do with that. The silence from the organization after the reports, that said more than any press release ever could. You don't keep drama in your locker room when the league is in growth mode. You don't risk alienating a new wave of fans, many of whom showed up for Caitlin Clark and stuck around for the WNBA. The league knows it. The teams know it. The sponsors definitely know it. The writing was on the wall. Aya Wilson wasn't fired because of one blow-up. She was fired because of the pattern, the tension, the refusal to evolve. And now, she's on the outside looking in. This moment, this exact one, is a career pivot point. The kind that either makes you or buries you. Does Wilson want to be remembered for her dominance, or for the way she handled being dethroned? Because let's be clear, she is being dethroned. That's what it feels like, right? Someone new came in. The cameras shifted. The merch sales went up, but not in her name. The league she helped carry is now being marketed around someone else. That hurts. No one's denying that. But greatness isn't about who holds the spotlight. It's about how you act when it moves away. There are two ways Wilson can go from here. 1. She doubles down. She leans into the victimhood, blames the media, blames the league, blames everyone but herself. That path, it's short, it's bitter, and it ends with fans turning away. Option 2. She breathes. She reflects. She steps back from the heat and returns with clarity. She shows the same emotional intelligence we've seen on the court in moments when the game is on the line. And she uses this moment, the fallout, the silence, the space to rebuild. Because Wilson still has time to reclaim her role in the league. But she has to change the way she sees it. It's not about competing with Caitlin Clark. It's about coexisting. The WNBA doesn't need one face. It needs faces. Multiple stars. Different styles. Diverse voices. Wilson and Clark together could have been the blueprint. The league's power duo. But only if the tension turns into growth. Fans can forgive missteps. They can look past a bad moment or even a season full of them if they see accountability. But if all they see is blame and bitterness, that's when they move on. And it's not just about fans. It's about younger players coming up behind Wilson. How do you lead when you can't model resilience? How do you mentor when your own response to challenge is shutting down or lashing out? That's the legacy question staring her in the face now. Because Clark isn't slowing down. The league isn't slowing down. The spotlight isn't going to swivel back to Wilson just because she demands it. She has to earn it again, but in a different way this time. Not with stat lines. With presence. With poise. With a version of leadership that doesn't demand loyalty, inspires it. You want to talk about relevance? There's still a seat at the table for Wilson. But it's not the same seat she used to have. That one's taken. And that's okay. If she can accept that. The real question is, can she? This league is evolving faster than ever. And players who embrace that, who show fans they're ready to evolve too, those are the ones who last. The ones who become more than athletes. They become icons. It's not too late for Aya Wilson to rewrite this chapter. But the clock is ticking. And silence from the ACES, from the league, from her sponsors, it's only going to grow louder. So here we are. Two players. Two different paths. One league that's watching every move. What happens next? Drop a comment and tell me what you think. Is Wilson being pushed out unfairly? Or did she dig this hole herself? Can she bounce back and rebuild her legacy? Or is this the end of her run as the face of the league? Smash the like button if you've been following this story from the start. Hit subscribe so you never miss the next twist, and share this with someone who needs to hear the full story. Because the WNBA drama is real, and trust me, it's only getting louder.